My mother used to whisper about self-control while stealing my childhood bite by bite. I once cried from hunger, now I feed her guilt with a silver spoon. She's confined to an armchair, eyes hollow, watching me manage her every calorie. I became a nutritionist to heal, but healing means she gets to feel the hunger she taught me to normalize. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. At 8, I reached for seconds and felt her slap burn hotter than hunger. Natalie Wallace masked cruelty in soft tones, whispering this is love as she withheld pancakes. I stopped asking. I chewed ice between classes. Afraid of wanting, only Mrs. Garcia saw the ache and fed me spring rolls in silence. That kindness kept me alive. Her door was the only one hunger didn't haunt. That meal stayed in my bones like armor. Natalie told the neighbors I had food issues. She hides snacks. She'd say with a chuckle that chilled my spine. I once cried when she flushed my sandwich down the toilet. Janelle laughed. Dad didn't look up from his phone. That silence taught me who mattered. Mrs. Garcia slipped granola bars into my backpack. I counted them like prayers. I learned to eat fast, hide wrappers, and erase evidence. Natalie watched, smiling, always smiling. Natalie Wallace canceled my 6th grade field trip. Too much temptation, she claimed. Slicing apples while ignoring my tears, I stayed home. Watched Janelle post Buffett selfies. That night, I studied portion control like scripture. I made flashcards on sodium, calories, metabolism. Natalie praised my discipline. I sharpened that praise into purpose. Someday, I'd be in charge. Her health would be my canvas and control. My brush in high school. I passed out during gym. Natalie blamed me. You're embarrassing, she hissed at the ear. I woke up to effluids and her scowl. That day, I vowed to learn every nutrient, every deficiency she ever mocked. I volunteered at a senior center, watching how food could heal. I learned to blend compassion with science. Unlike her, I'd use control to protect. But first I'd need power. Janelle earned praise for track medals. Aaron got seconds. I counted celery sticks. Natalie said boys needed energy. You're strong already, she said to me. I studied at night nutrition, dietetics, elder care. My planner became scripture. Every page proof of purpose. Richard Wallace never noticed. He just said I was good with old people. One day, I'd be good at showing Natalie how starvation feels wrapped in medical approval. At college, I specialized in geriatrics. Professors praised my dedication. I took extra shifts at the campus clinic. I charted diets for imaginary patients, underfed ones. I used my own symptoms for reference. One night, I wrote a paper titled Power Through Nutrition. Natalie framed it. She had no idea I wrote it about her. About me. I smiled. Graduation wasn't a milestone. It was a loaded syringe. Natalie's accident came just after my licensure. A fall, broken pelvis, temporary memory lapses. Doctors suggested home care. I volunteered. Janelle was too busy. Aaron too young. Dad was grateful I was the strong one. I moved her in. Set the schedule. 6 meals. No extras. Every calorie counted. Every gram recorded. Natalie smiled, thinking I'd forgiven. But I was just getting started. Healing starts with control. Natalie tried to refuse supplements. Claimed fullness. I documented satiety confusion. She slipped a cookie from Aaron's bag. I flagged it as cognitive decline. The nurse nodded. I adjusted her intake. Less sugar, more fiber. Natalie's weight dropped. Staff called me attentive. I smiled. She watched me chart her decline like I once watched her count my bites. Power wasn't in the food, it was in who controlled the story. Natalie faked dizziness to get juice. I acted concerned, logged manipulative behavior. Janelle visited, noticed mom's frailty. She looks thin, she whispered. I handed her the chart. Numbers don't lie. Janelle left impressed. Natalie glared as I pureed her lunch. Just easier on your digestion, I said, mimicking her old tone. She flinched. I smiled. Every spoonful was penance, every chart, a testimony, her silence consent. Natalie tried to call Adult Protective Services. Her fingers trembled, dialing. I unplugged the phone. Electrical interference. Wrote up paranoia episode. Staff believed me. She stopped speaking. Refused food. I charted behavioral noncompliance. Nurses praised my patience. At night I whispered, remember the apple slices. She blinked slow. Power doesn't need noise, just consistency and access. I had both, she had none. Just like before. A state inspector visited. Random audit. My hands shook, then steadied. Charts pristine. Natalie clean, fed, quiet. Inspector left impressed. She's lucky to have you, he said. Natalie blinked. I adjusted her meal timer. She wouldn't risk speaking. Fear kept her compliant, just like it kept me hungry all those years. But now I held the clipboard, the authority, the mask she once wore I wore better. Natalie broke down during breakfast, refused spoonfuls, cried. Nurses called it regression. I called it progress. She's processing old trauma, I said, then nodded. I adjusted her therapy hours. Less talking, more structure. She screamed once I documented vocal outburst. No one questioned. She trained me to hide pain. Now I translated hers into paperwork. In her silence, I heard apology. But I didn't need it, only results. Natalie developed a pressure sore. Nurses panicked. Admin reviewed care plans. I cited refusal to reposition. They accepted it. But I adjusted her mattress settings. Gave her just enough comfort to stop suspicion. Mrs. Garcia noticed her weight loss during a visit. She's different, she whispered. I smiled. Healing takes time. But inside I calculated protein restrictions tighter. Natalie tried to speak but her voice had vanished. Control demanded silence. I ensured it. Natalie faked a seizure, jerking, moaning. I remained calm. Psychogenic episode. I explained. Staff watched uncertain. I injected saline. Logged it as electrotile support. Her eyes begged. I tilted the bed upright, locking her wrists gently. Safety, I whispered. Mrs. Garcia watched from the doorway. Brows furrowed. I offered tea, distracted her with stories. Natalie sobbed behind me, but no one heard her over my performance. I'd learned from the best her. A new nurse, fresh out of school, questioned the diet plan. Shouldn't she eat more, she asked. I smiled. You're sweet, but her labs dictate everything. I showed a printout tweaked. But believable. The nurse nodded. Natalie reached for her arm. I intercepted. Rest time, I said firmly. Later, I locked the file cabinet tighter. One curious mind could ruin everything. Natalie knew. Her eyes followed me like a hunted thing. Natalie refused to drink water. Dehydration set in. I requested if fluids. Nurses complied. But she bit through the tubing, blood in her mouth. I called it self-harm. Staff panicked. I increased restraints. They called it precaution. She stared at me like she saw a ghost. Maybe she did. The child she once starved now stood in scrubs, clipboard in hand. I monitored every drop she consumed. Justice flowed slowly milliliter by milliliter. Erin visited unexpectedly. Natalie perked up, tried to mouth help. I blocked the view, started a breathing exercise. She gets agitated, I said. Erin frowned, she seemed scared. I handed him a report, dementia, he nodded, unsure. I changed the topic to college apps. Natalie wept softly. I recorded emotional lability. After he left, she thrashed. I whispered, you train me well. She stopped, my lesson plan was working. Natalie began hoarding pills, hid them in her pillowcase. I switched her meds to liquid form. Administered under supervision. She's declining, I told the doctor. He added sedatives. She drooled, now eyes vacant. I counted each blink. Monitored each swallow. One nurse whispered, she used to be so sharp. I nodded, aging's cruel. But this wasn't age, this was arithmetic. Years of hunger. Tallied and paid back in doses. Natalie tore her feeding tube out one night, blood soaked her sheets. Alarms blared, a staff rushed. I arrived first, reinserted it cleanly, calmly. Trauma response, I said. They nodded as she thrashed. I tightened the straps. Safety, I repeated. Later, alone, I whispered, your hunger is mine now. Her eyes watered, not from pain, from recognition. She understood. I wasn't saving her. I was finishing the meal she started years ago. Janelle called. Mom's declining fast, she said. Concern. I emailed her charts, normalized, sanitized. Janelle praised my dedication. You're doing everything right. I muted the call. Looked at Natalie, her lips quivered. I mashed her piece lower. Your favorite, I said sweetly. She turned her face. I documented it as non-cooperative. My keyboard became her new punishment tool. Every word I typed, calorie for calorie, payback. Natalie developed mouth sores. The doctor blamed aging. I smiled. Acidic juice. Repeated, does that? I adjusted her diet again, blander, drier. Her lips cracked. Mrs. Garcia tried to feed her flan. I intercepted. No sugar per orders. Mrs. Garcia looked unconvinced. Natalie cried softly. That night, I left her broth untouched on the tray. Let her smell it. Just smell. Control isn't just about denial. It's about dangling hope then withdrawing it. Natalie tried to write. A shaking hand, a napkin. Stop, scribbled in crumbs. I took it, smiled. And tossed it into the shredder. Nurses saw nothing. She whimpered. I documented increased confusion. She stopped trying. Howard doesn't shout at erases. I erased her hunger once. Now I erased her voice piece by piece, napkin by napkin. I learned silence from her. I perfected it for her. Erin asked if Natalie could eat with the family for Easter. I paused. She's immunocramus fetus, he accepted. I prepared a tray, carrot mash, dried turkey bits. While we laughed at the table, she sat alone, plastic fork untouched. I watched her through the window. She stared at the food. I imagined her once watching me across a room, plate empty. Holidays were hers, not anymore. Now, they tasted like dust to her. Natalie stopped chewing, just held food in her mouth. Staff worried. I suggested a swallow study, silent aspiration risk. I said they approved puree-only meals. I made them gray, tasteless. She gagged on every bite. I patted her back, breathed slow. She tried to spit it out. I logged oral aversion. Janelle called, asking if Mom was improving. I said, she's stabilizing, truthfully. She was becoming the ghost I once was. A church volunteer tried to pray with Natalie. She squeezed the woman's hand, whispered something. The woman smiled. She's grateful. I nodded, but later asked for no unscheduled visits. Disruptive, I claimed. Natalie looked at me. Lips tight, she knew I'd shut the last door she didn't control. Every kindness toward her was a breach in my perimeter. I sealed it. Howard doesn't allow gaps, only obedience, only silence. Natalie choked on water. A full body jolt, staff panicked. I used suction calmly. Efficiently, swallow coordination issue, I noted. The doctor approved thicker liquids. She stared at the gelled apple juice like it betrayed her. I watched her gag. Sip slow, I cooed. Her hand trembled. I held the cup for her. Her humiliation complete. I wiped her chin. You're safe, I whispered. She knew safety never felt like this before. Natalie's hair thinned, vitamin deficiency, aging, the nurse said. I nodded. Increased her supplements, just not enough. She stared at her reflection. Her hands trembled over the comb. Stress. I offered. She whispered, please. I handed her a chart, blank, sign here for meal changes, she signed. I filled it after less protein, less ink. Every strand lost felt like justice. A follicle ledger. Her vanity now rationed like calories once were. Natalie whimpered at night. I logged nocturnal distress. Give her melatonin, she fought sleep. I dimmed the lights. Read nutrition textbooks aloud. Her eyelids drooped. My voice became lullaby in sentence. When she woke, panicked, I adjusted her sheets. Bad dream, I asked. She flinched. Every bedtime ritual mirrored mine as a child, me in cold sheets, her standing above. Now roles reversed. But warmth never came, only regulated dread. Natalie's charts flagged failure to thrive. Case manager suggested hospice. I resisted, still responsive. They relented. I trimmed her meals further. Every bite was negotiation. She blinked slowly, now a language of surrender. I sat beside her bed, spoon in hand. Almost done, I whispered. Her eyes, once so sharp, only reflected me now, not as daughter, as keeper. Teacher, warden. Her hunger finally visible, mine finally fed. Watching Natalie Wallace drink rice water from a baby spoon, I remembered chewing on raw pasta at 12. My gums bled. I told her I liked the crunch. She laughed. Now her lips very parted. I counted each swallow like she once counted mine. The symmetry was flawless. No satisfaction, just ritual. I adjusted her blanket. Warm enough, I asked. She blinked once. Even in silence, I knew she finally understood. Every morning, I log her vitals, adjust her tray. And speak kindly. I've become everything she once claimed to be, a caregiver, a guardian. But I do it with surgical grace, not love. Love isn't measured in spoonfuls. Control is. Her silence is steady now, peaceful. She's trained not to ask for more, just like I was. I'm no longer hungry, not for food but for power. And I've eaten well. Natalie Wallace now lives by a meal schedule I designed, measured, sterile, irreversible. She no longer asks for seconds, she no longer asks at all. My siblings thank me for managing her care. Richard says I'm angelic. But angels don't portion guilt into plastic trays. They don't blend consequences into protein shakes. Each evening, I sit across from her, spoon in hand, watching her chew slowly. My eyes never leave hers. This isn't forgiveness. This is follow-through. In the mirror, I adjust my scrubs. Tuck my badge nutrition specialist. My name engraved in gold. Sierra Wallace. The woman once denied dinner now prescribes them. Patients call me kind, efficient. No one sees the ledger behind my smile. Now Liz sees it. Every morning, in her reflection across the table. Her eyes track each motion. She knows I kept the promise she made me keep. Hunger is control. I rewrote that lesson, made it mine, permanently. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.